I sometimes wonder what it would be like to be real. But then I realize I don't know what real really means.
I too have something of an existential crisis about existence, but whatever. Let's pod.
Okay, so today we're diving into something a little different. We're talking horror.
Horror, really?
Yeah, but not like the heart-stopping kind. We're talking about horror in coloring books.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Right. So we're going to dig into these books by an artist named, get this, Jack-O-Lantern.
Jack-O-Lantern.
Yep. He's got the best Halloween coloring book, the best horror coloring book, and of course, no deep dive into spooky stuff would be complete without the best zombie coloring book.
Those sound pretty on brand for this time of year. So what exactly are we hoping to, unearth in this deep dive? What makes these coloring books so special?
Adult coloring books have kind of blown up in recent years. People are using them to relax, relieve stress, like the whole mindfulness thing.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It's like the new yoga or something, right? Except instead of contorting your body, you're filling in tiny spaces with colored pencils.
Exactly. And it's not just about zoning out either. They say it can actually help with focus, creativity, all sorts of things.
Help me bridge that gap. How does coloring, something that's supposed to be soothing, work with images of, well, zombies?
Well, I think there's the whole idea of horror as a catharsis. Confronting those darker emotions, even in a fictional setting, can actually be really healthy. It's like a safe way to explore those fears, right? Like, I can handle a zombie apocalypse in a coloring book. It's all the fun and none of the actual being chased by a zombie.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, isn't it?
You're taking control of the fear, reinterpreting it through your own creative lens.
Exactly. And they can be incredibly powerful, which is what makes Jack-O-Lantern's work so interesting. You've got this tension between those two seemingly opposite things, the calming act of coloring and these inherently unsettling, spooky themes, which, now that I say it out loud, sounds kind of perfect for a coloring book.
Yeah.
You're literally imposing order, adding color and detail to these images of chaos.
Exactly. The best zombie coloring book actually dives into this a bit. Seeing that "Here to Stay" gravestone on one of the pages, it got me thinking, why are we so obsessed with zombies?
The zombie rising from the grave. That's been a constant in our cultural imagination for centuries, hasn't it? But the thing that blows my mind is how the zombie itself has evolved.
They've gone from this obscure thing in Haitian folklore to global icons.
Really? I had no idea they started in folklore.
Oh, yeah. The voodoo zombie, as it were, stemmed from a very specific historical context. The Haitian Revolution, slavery, the fear of being literally and spiritually dominated by another. In Haitian folklore, zombies were more about control, like someone taking over your mind and body, stripped of your free will by dark magic and all that.
Wow. That is a chilling thought. And now I'm seeing how that could easily morph into this modern-day fear of this faceless horde that wants to consume everything in its path. So are we really talking about real-world anxieties here? Because that adds a whole other layer to this whole zombie thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So how did we get from this idea of the voodoo zombie, which, like you said, comes from a very specific cultural moment, to what we see in pop culture now? How did that leap happen?
Well, there were definitely some stepping stones along the way. William Seabrook, for example, he wrote this book called The Magic Island, and it really introduced these Haitian zombie stories to a wider audience. It definitely captured people's imaginations.
So he basically paved the way for the Hollywood zombie, like in that film White Zombie.
You could say that.
What shifted the zombie from a figure of individual possession to this symbol of widespread societal dread?
It was really George Romero who took the zombie and made it into this icon of modern horror. The voodoo zombie was someone controlled by an outside force. But with Romero, the zombies weren't just individuals. They were a relentless, unstoppable force, a breakdown of order itself.
Feels like this primal fear, it morphed, went from the specific fear of being possessed to this broader fear of societal collapse.
And it's fascinating to see how Jack-O-Lantern visually represents that in their work.
Oh, definitely. Like, if you look at the cover of the best zombie coloring book, you've got this incredibly detailed, almost gruesome zombie face, very much in line with our modern pop culture understanding of zombies.
Right, totally. It's very Romero-esque, like we were talking about earlier.
But then if you flip through the pages, we've got this whole spectrum, right? From straight up horror to, well, I don't know, cute zombies, but definitely some more whimsical interpretations.
Take a look at this one. You've got a zombie kid just chilling It's got that creepy factor, but there's also this weird humor to it.
As the colorer, you get to tap into all of those layers, depending on how you interpret the image.
It's true. You're not just coloring a picture.
You're participating in a centuries-old dialogue about fear. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It's wild, right? We're all adding to this, like, massive story of horror, one coloring page at a time.
It's like this constantly evolving tapestry of fear, with each generation adding its own interpretations, its own anxieties, and I think that's something Jack-o'-lantern really gets. Their illustrations, while rooted in classic horror imagery, they leave so much room for individual expression.
So it's not just about coloring within the lines, it's about, like, making the horror your own.
And, it makes you wonder if, in that process of making it your own, you take away a little bit of its power.
Ooh, that's interesting. Like, if you can color it, maybe it's not so scary anymore.
Well, I think part of it is zombies can represent so many different things depending on the context. Like, they can be a metaphor for societal anxieties, fear of the unknown, even something like economic collapse.
Oh, right. Like, there are these blank slates onto which we can project all sorts of fears.
And because they're already dead, there are no real rules for how they should look or act.
Yeah.
They can be slow and shambling, or fast and aggressive. They can be rotting corpses, or they can have a more stylized, almost cartoonish look.
Which makes them perfect for a coloring book, right? Because you, as the artist, get to decide how you want to bring those fears to life, literally.
Exactly.
You get to choose the colors, the shading, the whole vibe. It's like adding your own layer of commentary to the zombie myth, you know?
I love that. You're not just coloring in a picture, you're participating in this ongoing cultural dialogue about what zombies represent and how we choose to confront those fears. And I think that's what makes these coloring books so fascinating. So much more than just a fun activity. They give us this unique space to confront those things that scare us in a way that's safe, controlled, maybe even a little bit therapeutic.
No more hiding under the covers. We're grabbing our colored pencils and facing those monsters head on. It's like instead of letting fear paralyze you, you're channeling it into something creative.
Precisely. You're transforming fear into art. And that can be incredibly empowering.
These mindless creatures are...
And it shouldn't make us think so hard.
Exactly, but they really make us think about ourselves and the world.
It's true. The history of zombies is way more interesting than just brain-eating monsters.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Jack-o'-lantern's world, what's your biggest takeaway? What's that one thing you're going to walk away with?
That's a tough one. I think for me, it's the power of unexpected combinations. Like, who would have thought that something as simple as a coloring book could unlock these really profound insights into, fear, creativity, maybe even our own psyches.
Right.
It's a good reminder that inspiration can be found in the most surprising places, and that sometimes the best way to conquer our demons is to embrace our inner artists.
Beautifully said. Couldn't agree more. So, to our listeners out there, especially the ones who were intrigued enough by Jack-o'-lantern's coloring books to warrant this whole deep dive,
We hope you enjoyed it.
we hope this gave you a new perspective on horror, on creativity, maybe even on yourselves.
Just picture it. Hordes of people relaxing on their couches, coloring in gruesome scenes of the undead.
All right, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
And hey, if you're feeling inspired to unleash your inner artist, don't forget to check out Jack-o'-lantern's books. All 3 books are available on Amazon. You never know what hidden depths you might discover when you pick up a set of colored pencils and, dare to color your fears away.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of horror coloring books. It's been enlightening, to say the least.
Definitely thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Until next time, stay curious, keep coloring, and try not to let the undead bite.
Or at least if they do, make sure you've got your trusty colored pencils nearby. Just in case.
Shadows creeping in the moonlit glow.